Hi, Dr. Ray. I love your show.
Let me show you what it looks like to be a holy person, and maybe you'll want to be holy like me.
You just patted yourself on the back.
You seem like an honest guy.
But you're a psychologist. Do you have some advice?
I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
You're my second favorite Italian person.
I think you have a way of making people feel relaxed.
She needs to feel the consequences of being a jerk.
You know, I was looking for a deeper answer.
Obviously, I'm a failure. Obviously, I'm inept.
You are awesome. Keep up the good fight, my friend.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very nice. Very nice to be with you. Thank you so much. Steve Clark on the intro. This is Look Back Friday. Our typical variant of The Doctor Is In, where I look at, didn't say we, because you don't, where I look at and listen to earlier calls. They go back some months sometimes, because they raise other, I hesitate to say issues, that's psychobabble. The only issue I really know is modern tank repair. But they raise other matters that I would like to comment on. So we will get to those. There's one up there that's only a 2.5-minute call. So I know I should have given Andrew a little more material on that one. So we will get, if you stay with me, we will get to those calls. One of the questions I got, did you, growing up, have any imaginary friends? People ask me that. Do you have any imaginary friends, Dr. Ray? I did. I had two imaginary friends. And they would only play with each other. That was tough. It was really tough. Remind you of that Neil Diamond song, Shiloh? When I was young, I used to call your name when no one else would come. Shiloh, you always came. It was his imaginary friend. All righty, let me see what we got here. Okay, I'm going to read this from C.S. Lewis and then expound. Not necessarily expound intelligently, but just expound with a lot of words. Use enough words, maybe I can come across something valuable. If anyone would like to acquire humility, now, this is one that I think is particularly relevant for me to say on this program because, and although I have not competed for the last several years, there was a stretch where I won Catholic Media's annual Humility Award 9 years in a row. Yeah. The virtue, everybody had to pick a virtue. The virtue I picked was humility. And I thought it was pretty blatant, pretty obvious. And I won it. 9 years. I will share with you the poem that I read to win the award, which, by the way, one of the reasons that I dominated for so long, you cannot collect the trophy. That kind of defeats the purpose. If you're going to be humble, you just acknowledge you don't deserve the trophy. Some of my competition showed up, asked where their trophy was, which immediately they lost it. So this humility is tricky stuff. The poem I read was this. I'd like to be famous so I can be humble about being famous. What good is my humility when I am stuck in this obscurity? So continue to quote C.S. Lewis. If anyone would like to acquire humility, it's interesting the way he put it, acquire humility. Like develop it, I guess. Doesn't come naturally, I think, is what he's saying. I think, tell him the first step. Okay, this is good. The first step is to realize that one is proud. And a biggish step two. Now, see, that was probably a British way of saying something, biggish. But who would have known that in the modern American lexicon, ish? What time are you coming? 7-ish. Do you like him? Yeah, he's okay-ish. At least, and he goes on, nothing whatever can be done before realizing that one is proud. If you think you are not conceited, It means you are very conceited indeed. Now, wait a minute, old C.S. Lewis here. Hold on now. What if it's somebody who, in fact, sees themselves and struggles with their own self-confidence or self-image, and they feel like they're unworthy, or they feel like they don't measure up to other people? How can they be proud? I guess it depends upon how you define that term. We tend to think of pride as a fluffed up. I feel that I'm pretty special. I feel I'm pretty superior. I feel that I'm better than you, or perhaps most people, because I'm virtuous. Or I am a practicing Christian. Or I don't break the law. We tend to think that's the circumstances of pride. I think Lewis is using it in a much broader way. Self-interest. Nobody would argue that we have self-interest as one of our main motivators, if not the main motivator. St. Thomas Aquinas says, you want to know the motivation, follow the self. In other words, what is it about what I'm doing, what I'm pursuing, that feeds myself? Whatever that might be. So pride would be putting my own interests first, perhaps ahead of yours. Now, again, I know those are generalities because your interest might not be too good, but overall, in relating to other people, St. Paul says things like, esteem others more highly than yourself. Ooh, wow. So when you don't do that, I would think Lewis would say, well, that's a component of pride. You're self-concerned. I think pride also is at the root of getting upset over what people say about you or do about you. In other words, he was disrespectful to me, or he hurt my feelings, or I can't believe he said that. That's pride. How dare they say that about me or to me? That's pride. I don't want them to do that because I don't deserve that. Anytime you say I don't deserve that, what you're really saying is I'm above that. You accuse me of that? I'm not that. Now, I may not be that, but the reaction to you saying that about me prickles my pride. Pricks my pride. I like that. That'd be a good book title. Do you have pricklish pride? I think that's how Lewis is viewing pride. And if you say, I'm not prideful, I'm just not prideful. Matter of fact, I'm kind of one of the more humble people I know. That's trouble. That's real trouble. Because what you're saying is I'm really pretty good at this humility thing. I had somebody say to me one time after I had dominated the humility competition. She said in an email, quit talking about your humility. Just be humble. She didn't realize that I was poking the balloon. I was busting the balloon of pride, which is, I'm pretty proud of my humility. I actually heard a sports hero say that. The guy was in an interview with the news media, and he said, my humility is something that I've always been pretty proud of. So, let me read Lewis one more time, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll get your questions. If anyone would like to acquire humility, in other words, the implication is it's something you work on, I can tell him the first step. It's to realize that one is proud. And a biggish step, too. In other words, it's hard to realize you're proud. I don't want to admit that. It goes against my humility. At the least, nothing whatever can be done before admitting you're proud. If you think you're not conceited, it means you are very conceited indeed. And he got that in Mere Christianity. Okay, take a break. Your questions on the other side.
Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems, or if you've had an organ transplant or lung, breathing, or liver problems.
The doctor will be with you in just a moment.
I feel better!
Dr. Ray has more great advice coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Because I'm a doctor, that's how I know.
You know, people say, Dr. Ray, do you have struggles in your life? I do. I don't like to bring them to the fore, though, but I will share with you one. Right now, as a matter of fact, I got some coffee before the show. It was nice and hot. Good. Right amount of cream and sugar. Perfect. And it's been, about 18 minutes, and the coffee is now room temperature. I'm not anywhere near a microwave, and it's a plastic cup, so I couldn't do it anyway. So I'm dealing with that, and I will deal with it the rest of this show. But I'm not one to complain about that kind of struggle, because that's just part of my overall go with the flow. The coffee's not the temperature I like, but nevertheless, you won't hear me whining about it. Marie from Texas, calling in about something that I've seen, not only as a psychologist, but I've seen it among people I know and love. Inheritance disputes. Oh, boy. Is the inheritance all established?
Yes. Actually, my parents died 10 years ago. I'm one of 11 children. We range in age from late 70s to our 50s now. The one sister, Jane, came against the executives during the settlement of the estate.
She didn't like the way it panned out for her.
Right.
Okay.
Right. She actually brought in her own attorney, which in the end was not productive at all. So she basically lost her cause because she wasn't following the will, pretty simply. So that's the history.
So she didn't like what your parents put as the terms of the will.
Yes.
She thought she didn't get her fair share.
Actually, she thinks that her brothers were slighted. One of the brothers had a thought that he should get, he thought he should get more than what Mom and Dad had in this will. Okay, so that's the situation. So now, over the past 4 to 5 years, she's got a bunch of children, and 3 of her youngest children have got married. And in retaliation for the 5 of us, of the 11 that didn't go along with that, she does not invite us to the weddings. And then, after this last wedding, which was just a couple of months ago, she sends out an email, and she says, the people in my family are putting up walls. They're avoiding me. I feel, I am not sure the best way to go forward. And then she'll send a prayer or a novena. And we're just scratching our heads. It's like, wake up, So how do you handle something like this?
Let me see if I understand.
Or what do you do, or what do you not do?
I got to see if I got it right. A couple of the brothers, didn't get what they thought was their fair share, and the motives for your parents probably were hinging upon anything that happened in the family dynamics. Maybe the brothers were ne'er-do-wells, whatever. They just thought, no, we're not going to leave them $80,000 because they'll just blow it in 2 days. So they had their reasons to do this.
Right.
Sister got upset. How could they do this? This is just terrible. This is just awful. And you people need to stand up for them. And when 5 or 6 of the siblings didn't stand up for them, she decided to write you off. She decided to say, well, you're no longer part of my family or my family's events. Then, at some point recently, she says, why are you people estranged from me? What are you doing? I think I got it.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I guess I would ask her, how is it that you think we're estranged from you? What have we done that we've pushed you out of our lives? Make her come up with it. Well, you didn't go to my daughter's wedding. Did you invite us? Now, if she puts her feet in cement and says, no, it's your fault. You should be reaching out to me and you never did. Then I'd say, well, what do you want to do about it now? What do you want us to do about it now?
Okay.
Because if you get into a battle with her about the old, wait a minute, you've had 4 weddings, we got invited to none of them. How are you saying that it's our fault? Because if she'll dig her heels in and say, it is your fault, and in between the weddings, you never contacted me. You never ever made any effort to see how I'm doing. And I was sick. I was sick for 2 months, and I didn't hear from anybody. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing the case that people can conjure in their heads. So I would say, talk with a couple of your more level-headed siblings and say, do you want to meet with her and say, what is it that you think we've done that pushed you out of our lives? And if she says, well, nobody's contacted me, you can tell her, you can say, well, we thought you didn't want us to. When you didn't invite us to the weddings, we thought that was your way of saying you didn't want us in the lives because we didn't stick up for our brothers. Here's the thing that I'm nervous about, Marie. In these kinds of cases, much of the time the person is not rational. They're not open-minded. They're not going to say...
We kind of get that feeling, Dr. Ray. We think that when we're looking and we're seeing things like narcissist and stuff like that.
Well, don't get caught up in that. Don't put any lay people diagnoses on it. Don't do that. All you know is that your sister, for whatever the reason, decided that you people did not stick up for the right things. You hurt your brothers and you hurt her. So therefore, I don't have siblings anymore. My guess would be, if you had to predict which of your siblings would act like this, probably she'd be number 1 in your prediction. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay. Unfortunately, when the matriarch passed from the family, there is, sadly, friction over the inheritance. It happens. I've seen people that I know and respect go without speaking to each other because they thought that the parents did not do the fairness with the leaving to children. My wife and I plan to leave the bulk of our estate to charity. We want to leave some to the children, but our view is it isn't necessarily... I mean, many of my children are already self-sufficient. So our view, we made a decision. Now, will any of them be upset with us? Well, I don't know, and I don't care because I won't be around. If I'm in heaven, I'll be happy. If I'm in hell, it'll be the least of my worries. So that said, unfortunately, this sister made a judgment. And the judgment was my parents were wrong in doing what they did. She didn't say my parents had the right to do what they did. I don't agree with what they did, but they had the right to do it. See, there's the difference. The difference is I may not like what you did. I may not do that myself, but I recognize that you're in a position to make that decision. And when someone says, not only do I not agree with what you did, but I'm going to react in such a way to punish people. Now, she said an interesting thing. She said if she were to predict which of her siblings would act like this, she would have predicted this sibling, which tells you that over the course of their lives, this is the one who, for whatever it was about her personality, was the more difficult one to get along with, one who would be more likely to get upset about something when you got 11 kids? There's plenty of material you can get upset about. All kinds of stuff. When my mom passed away, we had the funeral at St. Anthony Parish in Canton, Ohio. That was my mom and dad's parish. St. Anthony Parish, as I've said before on this program, was the parish of Rita Rizzo, known as Mother Angelica. She went to St. Anthony. Matter of fact, most of the people in the southeast end of Canton, Ohio were Italian and went to St. Anthony. That was their local ethnic Catholic parish. At my mom's funeral, my sister got up after Mass and said a very, very nice tribute to my mom. Very nice tribute. I got up after my sister Mary Ann and said a few words, and I was nervous because somebody else had the microphone longer than I was going to get it. It threw me into a panic attack. And I remember saying the danger oftentimes in inheritance struggles is that there can be fractures among siblings. And that I was very proud, to use the word proud, piggybacking off my opening monologue, that's not going to happen in our family. My sisters and my brother and I, we recognized that mom and dad could do whatever they wanted. And unfortunately, or fortunately, my mom was exquisitely fair with how she did it. She didn't want any sibling to get more or less by the penny than another sibling. But I said, we're not going to argue. My sisters can have the car. My sisters can have the furniture that mom would leave to them. It doesn't matter. I don't want anything. Except I want my mother's coupon book, valued at $1.2 million. My mother grew up in the Depression. She never did anything without a coupon. And I used to watch her at stores talk people into accepting a coupon 3 weeks after its expiration date. I don't know how she did it. She was incredible. Just wanted the coupon book. Paid for the funeral for $12. Mom had a coupon. Question I get sometimes. Dr. Ray, do you think some things are better left unsaid? Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of things that are better left unsaid, and it's usually right after I say them. This is Look Back Friday, variant of The Doctor is In, a co-production, EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network, some 500 worldwide stations, as well as Sirius Satellite, Channel 130, and all kinds of apps and other ways to listen. And in cooperation with Ave Maria Communications, Radio Communications, with my producer man, Andrew Kruchek, who is also my editor man. He edits, I think, very capably these particular past questions on this Look Back Friday, where we take the question and then I talk some more about the question, because every question I get, I want to talk more. But the exigencies of time and broadcast radio suffocate, stultify me. Let's go to Amanda. Amanda's calling from Ohio. How old is your son?
He is about to turn 12 next month.
You getting in trouble at school?
I mean, a little bit of trouble, but just more socially having trouble with peers. He struggles with ADHD, and even on medication is still very impulsive and kind of can be loud. And I think that maybe affects him with peers at school. And also, you know, we're trying to help him at home, but I've talked to you several times, and I'm trying to take your advice. We have given him way too much freedom with, PlayStation, phone, YouTube for a little too long, especially with his ADHD. And now trying to rein that in and take some of those things away, it's like his behavior has gone like through the roof.
Well, you changed the rules. Amanda, you changed the rules on him. That's why he's mad.
We did, and I know that you said that we are allowed to do that as parents, and it takes courage to finally do that. And I prepared my husband and myself that I said, this is going to get worse before it gets better. My concern is that he comes home saying that everyone hates him and his life is terrible and he wants a new life, and he's just very down. And I know when you have been given freedoms and then they're taken away and then you're not like everybody else at school, of course he's going to feel like an oddball.
He's mad at life and he's mad at you.
Very, very mad at me.
How dare you? How dare you make these changes now? So unfair.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. And you prepared me that he was going to be that way, but I think my concern now is that, the way he's acting and what he's getting back from his peers at school because of where he is right now, I'm like, do I consider taking him out and maybe homeschooling him and getting him into a better place and then kind of releasing him back into the wild, or do you think that's extreme for me to
No, I don't think it's extreme at all. I would wonder how he'll cooperate with you if, in fact, he's coming back home and he's deciding, hey, this is play school, and who's mom to do this with me? I don't want to do my work. I can get up at 9 o'clock and go pee for a half an hour and then get a drink and then go outside, and then when she's calling me and I'm ignoring her, you'll have to figure out how to deal with all that, discipline-wise. On the other hand, it's not unusual when you have a kid who's had a lot of freedom and permissiveness for this kind of reaction. I'm miserable now. I'm unhappy now. Life stinks now because I was doing fine before. Well, in fact, he wasn't doing fine before. He was just as unhappy. But the difference is now you're trying to protect him from some of the stuff that he wants to get attracted to. Some of it too.
And I do worry about the things says. We just started him with a counselor, and she did ask him a lot of questions, and he didn't say he was, thoughts of suicide or anything like that. But I just worry as mom. I worry about his self-esteem and how low it is, and how down he seems. And I know they're not supposed to be happy all the time, but it's hard because I don't want to miss something. And then he's,
You can't parent in fear,
I don't know.
Amanda. You cannot parent in fear. You can't say, if I'm going to make what I think are good judgments for his well-being, how will he react? And if he reacts a certain way, I'll never forgive myself. You can't parent like that. You're going to have to say, this is what I'm going to do as a parent. This is my best judgment. And I'm going to deal with his reaction and deal with how he responds to this. You got him seeing a counselor. You got him talking to somebody. The counselor will tell you if, in fact, he or she sees that this kid is so distraught about life that he needs to have someone keep a close eye on him. That's very, very true. But on the other hand, though, if you do bring him home to homeschool, he may resist that too. He may, on one hand, say, I hate school, but on the other hand, no way am I coming home. My friends are at school. I don't know. I'll have to see how he'd react.
Well, and I kind of thought about, because he does come home sad so often, I thought, maybe the next time he comes home saying, hey, is this something you would be interested in? I wouldn't want to rip him out just because I'm so scared that how he's getting treated. If it's something he would be open to or something he would want, I would definitely want to know his opinion.
Well, yeah,
how
I would
he would
definitely
feel
think
it.
feel him out. There's no what. You can ask him about this. But he's not the main determinant. You are. His opinion counts, but it isn't necessarily a veto opinion. I'm going to bang up against a hard break. I was taking notes on this. There were 7 or 8 different sentences, observations that Amanda made that prompted thinking in me in a broader sense. Let me start with one of them because I know I'm going to hit the break here in a moment. She said, we've taken his devices away because we gave him free rein on devices. How long was that free rein? If that was years, then I don't doubt for a moment that this young man has a hard time paying attention to something that doesn't move with the speed of a device. Many, many, many years ago, I listened to a week-long seminar on ADHD. I made an observation once that what we're diagnosing as ADHD, especially in our kids' hyperstimulating culture, with video games and all their devices, could in fact create a look of ADHD. I was skewered. One of the gentlemen who was involved in some tangential way with that seminar called me personally. Just, how dare you? ADHD is a neurologically based disorder. It's a developmental disorder. It's the tail end of the temperamental continuum. I said, well, that's not my point. My point is what can confuse the picture of ADHD and what can confuse the diagnosis. Well, since then, a lot of research has come out, and it said, in fact, a steady diet of these things will make it harder for some kids to pay attention and to stick with slow-moving stuff, especially boys, like academics. I got a lot more to say, so I'm going to allow that break, 2 minutes worth of interruption, and then I'll be back. Oh, I got so much more to say about Amanda's call. I'll summarize what she said, and then I can jump into my notes here. 12-year-old son had been given unbridled permission to be on devices. And she acknowledged that she had been very, very permissive and loose in her parenting. He's 12. He's been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I don't know when the diagnosis came about. Maybe when he was much, much younger, which would then lay to rest my speculation. However, there is evidence accumulating that the diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can be confused because so much is coming at our kids of a hyperstimulating way that their attention spans are actually being affected. And it isn't necessarily that they lack neurologically the ability. It's that they've been sort of trained into wanting that fast-paced, hyper-stimulating input. And school ain't that for a lot of them. Now, that said, she was nervous. She was nervous about her son's being unhappy, happy at school. Now, I would love to know what the details on that. What is it? Is he a behavior problem at school? If he is, then she's going to have to cooperate with the teachers and find a way to monitor his behavior and deal with it at home. They don't have much leverage at school. That's just the way it is. If it's because he is mad, here's something that hit me. He's extremely upset that mom is trying to cut back on his device time. Very upset, very mad. So he comes home and he's unhappy, and she's tagging that as being based in school. Is it possible? And again, these are all just questions that I would explore if it was therapy. Is it possible that he is not going to show her contentment? He is going to re-emphasize, Mom, my life is miserable because of you, and I'm not going to come home smiling. I don't want you to even remotely think I'm happy about my life. Is that it? She could talk to teachers. Have you noticed anything? Is he clashing with peers? Is there something going on there? Now, if in fact he was diagnosed with ADHD, were there behavior problems associated with it? ADHD is not behavior problems. It's impulsivity. It's distractibility. It's not behavior problems. The behavior problems follow because of that particular pattern of impulse control leads to behavior problems if, in fact, people are overwhelmed and trying to discipline it. He escalated. It's one of the most common results of a parent coming into my office and saying, we realize we've been on the wrong track. We want to do some things about it. And I have to tell them, you're going to get a reaction. And it will be hard to gauge whether, in fact, the child will mildly resist or exponentially resist. Depends on a lot of things. Depends upon how loose for how long and the child's temperament. Escalation is essentially I don't like that you changed the rules, and I'm going to show you how upset I am about it. Now, in these days of heavy over-psychologizing, that scares parents. They don't look at it as, he's mad, he's really upset, what do I expect? They look at it like, oh, what's this doing to his psyche? Amanda was clearly distressed. She said, I worry about his self-image. One of the interesting things about behavior problems is that most of the kids that I see who have significant behavior problems, in other words, significant meaning they clash with peers, with the school, with their parents, relatively regularly, are not happy. You can't be. When you are in friction with the people in your life, whether it's your parents, your teacher, or your peers, you don't exactly have a pleasantness about your existence. It's quite friction-filled. It's one of the first things parents will tell me is once they get better discipline control, their child's happier. He's more content. So I would have to know, and Amanda, again, you can't, too many agains there, Raymond. You can't explore questions outside of a therapy situation. That's why only educating here. She never mentioned her husband. She never mentioned if she was a single mom. What is the marital dynamic on this? Because sometimes you can find that when one parent actually decides to change the discipline approach and the other parent doesn't go along, it doesn't work too good. So if in fact he's still resisting, he's resisting mom heavily, why is this? Is it just because she said I was permissive as long as I was? Something else I've noticed, and this is kind of a generic observation. It would seem to me, I've been doing this a long time, 40 plus years. Yes, I started psychology when I was in third grade. Kids as a group are reacting more intensely to being thwarted, frustrated, or limited. They are. Because in their lives, I think this is a safe generalization. They have so much materially. They have so much freedom. They have the world and all its entertainment telling them they should be able to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G anytime they want. So when a parent attempts to put some limit on their seeking of pleasure, of stimulation, of entertainment, of goodies, whatever it might be, the kids react. They react hard. They react intense. It's not a matter of, gee, I'm disappointed, but it was a good run while I had it. No. It is, how could you do this to me? You have no right to do this to me. And part of the problem that a good parent runs into is that kid looks around him and he legitimately sees other kids who have more freedoms. Not good freedoms, but they have more freedoms. The old days used to be, well, yeah, you can talk about how everybody else has it better than you, but I know better because most of us parents are on the same wavelength. Well, that's not true anymore. When a parent really wants to raise a kid with high standards, virtuous, seeking God, they're going to be in a minority. And their kids notice that. So I don't doubt that her son has seen how much freedom, device-wise or whatever else-wise, that his peers have. And then here comes mom when he's 12 years old saying, okay, no more. We're cutting back. He goes crazy. I've told this story before, and it reminds me because I was there at my duplex this morning. I was in the backyard raking leaves, and my neighbor behind me comes up and said, Did you see a 15-year-old looking girl go through here just recently? I said, no, I've been out here a while. No, I haven't seen it. And he said, she's run away. And he went back to his house. Finished raking. I went up to his door, knocked on the door, and I said, did you find your daughter? He said, yeah, she came back. And then I said, did you take her phone? He said, yes, how did you know? I said, well, nowadays, when you take a kid's device, they're going to react as intensely as anything you can imagine. More intensely than any other discipline you've tried. And that's what happened with this young man. I mean, he's just unhappy. And whether that unhappiness is because he's overall not adjusting to life, or in fact, he's just unhappy because the rules got changed, I can't know. And I don't really know if his therapist will explore this. I will say this, though. I am slow to work with 12-year-olds. I work with their parents. Because typically in situations like that 12-year-old is going to come in and tell me about all the ways their parents are wrong. They're going to trash their parents. And I will attempt to get them to see a little broader perspective, but by and large, they're convinced that they would be much happier, much more content. They wouldn't have to come to a therapist if mom and or dad would just get with their program. So I would hope that therapists are sensitive to this. I know some are. I don't know if all are. Because all too often they would empathize with the child and recognize that what he's describing sounds like their parents are quite unreasonable, you know. Okay, I better take a break. I got a short one on the other side. This is Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me here. Okay, let's take one last question on this last segment of Look Back Friday. Joan from New York is discussing or calling in about her 8-year-old grandson who is exhibiting tics.
I'm just calling because I have a grandson. He's 8 years old, and he's developed what his parents call a tic, where he opens wide his mouth and shuts it open wide his mouth frequently. And the same thing with his eyes, his frequently eye blinking, perpetual eye blinking thing. Not losing consciousness like in a seizure, but this is going on, and I'm wondering what you can tell me about this sort of thing, and if they should do something, you know, should they be encouraged to take him to a neurologist?
Yep.
What do you think?
Absolutely, no question.
Absolutely,
I can't say that from here, but when you have this kind of symptomatology, you certainly have to start looking for something called Tourette's.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
People sometimes think that Tourette's is this explosive kind of verbalizations, a lot of times involving cuss words or aggression. Nah, that's the more spectacular demonstration of it. The much more common one is tics, usually facial, and the blinking and the mouth, not unusual part of the picture. So, yes, to a neurologist. And there's a chance he could outgrow this. My son had a number of these things, and he outgrew them in adolescence. But there is medication that can take care of some of this. And you're right. They are viewed as somewhat minor seizure-like activity. You know, there are neurons firing off that shouldn't be firing off. It's kind of like a stutter, somewhat like a stutter.
Yes.
In that this is not the little guy's fault. I mean, he's not doing this on purpose.
No, I know.
But it can happen when he's more tired. It can also happen when he's under stress. And he probably can exert some control over it, but not fully, and it usually will kick back in. So, yes, to the neurologist.
Is it better to his parents are just choosing to ignore it because they think he'll outgrow it? Because apparently the mother had something like this when she was a kid, and to this day she still once in a while has some mild tics.
If you have influence on him, Joan, you suggest, please go to a neurologist, because here's the other problem. It's embarrassing for the little guy. If he's doing it at school,
that's what I thought.
If he's doing it somewhere, my son, when he was gone to CCD, he wouldn't. He was very cautious because he didn't want.
I'm afraid it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, dear. I got to run. That's right. Running to me now, so I can talk about this. When I was a consultant to the schools, this particular school district was Salem City Schools. I consulted to a teacher whose young man in class had vocal outbursts. Now, the movements like Joan is describing with her grandson are much more common, usually around the face, perhaps grunting, throat clearing, anything like that. And it's interesting, and this is where it always can get confusing. He cursed. Now, was that, in fact, now that's kind of a rare expression of Tourette's. This they call it coprolalia. We put a fancy name on it. It means outbursts of cursing. Or, in fact, and I tried to explore this to see did he kind of pick up somewhere that he could do this as part of his symptom picture and get away with it and have a little fun with it? I didn't know, and I don't remember exactly how we resolved that, but I have to go, and I can't resolve it here anymore because I gotta leave. This is Dr. A. Thank you so much for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. Good Lord permitting. See you next week.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.